Okay, in this lesson, in section 8.1, we're going to talk about ratios. A ratio uses division to compare two numbers. For example, number of girls compared to boys in a class. Now, ratios can be written in three different ways. In example 2a, you've got A to B. Another example is 7 to 8. So, for example, you have 7 girls to 8 boys. Again, that's considered a ratio. Another way of writing it is A over B. And in the example, we have 7 over 8. And finally, in C, we have A colon B. Example is the same as 7 colon 8. So here are the three different ways to write ratios. You will be asked to write all three different ways of writing a ratio. All right, so let's be comfortable with all of them. They're always going to be in fraction form. That's another way to be able to determine. A ratio is noted as division, which is also fraction form. In the note right here, it says it is read the ratio of 7 to 8, the ratio of A to B. That's a correct way of reading it. So I'm going to ask you right now to open up your textbook to page 399. Now on that page, on page 399, you have a chart. I want you to look at that chart, and we're going to compare the two different teams, Padres and Cubs, and we're going to give what it's being at. There's three different teams that's noted there, but we're going to, on this page, we're going to be comparing Cubs and Padres, their wins and losses. So let's look at 3A. Again, we're talking about ratios, so we're going to set these up in ratio form in the three ways that we just discussed. So let's look at the Cubs section. The Cubs, they had 17 wins to 14 losses. So we're going to write the three different ways: 17 wins to 14 losses, 17 wins to 14 losses, 17 to 14. Now, three different ways of writing it. You need to get the ratio in the order that it's asked. So it's asking for wins to losses. So you write the first number as wins, the second number is losses. So again, in your textbook on 399, Cubs win to games played. So wins, they had 17. How many games did they play? So the games win to games played would be 17 to 31, 17 to 31, and 17 to 31. You add the total number of losses and the total number of games won, and that's how you got the 31. Now in C, Padres wins to Padres losses. 16 to 11, 16 to 11, and the third and final way, 16 to 11. So the Padres actually won 16 games, but they lost 11. So 16 plus 11 is 27, but it's asking for wins to games played. So 16 to 27, 16 to 27, and 16 to 27. Okay, in our next one, we have Padres losses to wins. That would be 11 to 16, 11 to 16, and 11 to 16. So Padre had 11 losses to the Cubs 14 losses. Ooh, I got a little happy on that one. Okay, any order you can put these examples on how to write the ratio, it does not matter that. But what does matter is the order that it's asked. Padres losses to Cubs losses. That's the order that you need to put the ratio in. Okay, now Number 4, two ratios are equivalent ratios when they have the same value. In our example 1, we have 4/8, and 1:2. Both of those have the same value, because if you were to put 1:2, that's 1/2, and that is exactly the same as 4:8. It is just a simplified version of the ratio. In example 2, we have 35:75. If you were to put this in that form of a ratio, when you would reduce it, you would get 7:25. So those two are equivalent ratios. Same with this last one. Example 3, 24:36. If you were to reduce it, that would be 2/3. So the ratios are written in a different format, but they are equivalent. Note on number 2, I had a typo. If you were to reduce 35/75, they have a common factor of 5. 35 divided by 5 is 7. 75 divided by 5 is 15. So here is the correct equivalent ratio for number 2. Now, in exercise 5, I've asked you to write the ratio as a fraction in simplest form. Let me read these to you, then I'll come back and check the answers. A, we have 5:125. B, we have 8:24. C, 36:72. D, 200:300. E, 10:50. And F is 48:54. Okay, on A, 5:125, simplest form in fraction is 1/25. B, 8/24, simplest form is 1/3. C, 36:72 is 1/2. D, 200:300 is 2/3. E, 10:50 is 1/5, and F, 48:54 is 8/9. Again, you can put each of these in a fraction and reduce them by whatever factor comes to your head. If you can get the greatest common factor to reduce it, that's great. If not, you just keep reducing until it gets to the simplest form. All right? Now, in your textbook again, let's look on page 400. I'm going to read the word problem in example 2 about amusement parks. You wait in line for 1.5 hours to ride a roller coaster. The ride lasts 2 minutes. What is the ratio of time spent in line to time spent on the ride? Okay, so you have a ride and you want to ride this ride, and so you stand in line for 1.5 hours for 2 minutes of fun. So we're going to put that in a ratio. But we notice that the first unit is in hours and minutes, and the second unit is 2 minutes of fun. So we need to put them in the same units. So in your example on this one, the first 1.5 hours is actually 90 minutes. So I changed 1.5 hours to 90 minutes. So for 90 minutes of wait time, you had 2 minutes of ride. So you would set it up as 90/2. They're both in minutes. Then you simplify. So for every 45 minutes that you waited in line, you had 1 minute of fun. In that example, according to the table, who has the greatest ratio of rock CDs to pop CDs, Lewis or Anna? Rock to pop. Now, notice that in that example in your book, they wanted to know who had the largest ratio of rock to pop CDs. So we put Lewis's, his ratio was 9:24. Anna's was 28:70. And then we simplified each of those fractions and got 3/8 and 2/5. But in order to compare them, we found a least common multiple of 40 so that we could compare them. Now, in the textbook, they decided to divide 3 divided by 8, 2 divided by 5, and found it in decimal. But I find that comparing fractions finding a common denominator, least common multiple, and comparing them that way is a simpler way. So again, give the ratio the way it is asked in order to compare them. Okay, so let's use the example in the previous number to figure this one out. We used the one earlier with the amusement park and the ride. So see if we can use that to help us with this one. Number 8, you drive 3 3/4 hours to hear your favorite musician perform for 45 minutes. Find the ratio of driving time to performance time. I'm going to pause the video and give yourself a minute to see if you can figure this one out on your own. So we set up the numerator to drive time. It's 3 hours, 3 3/4 hours, 3 3/4 hours to hear your favorite musician. That would be our numerator of our ratio. 45 minutes, what's how long you got to watch him perform? We changed them both to same units. Then we simplified 3 3/4 hours to minutes, which is 225 over 45 minutes. Then we reduced. 15 goes into both 225 and 45. Then we got 15 divided by 3. But looking at it, that is not our final answer because we need to do it the ratio in simplest form. So we have 15 to 3, but notice they can also be reduced by 3, the numerator and the denominator. So our final answer is 5 to 1. So for every 5 minutes you drove, you get 1 hour performance time. Okay, so we've got 5 minutes to every 1 minute will be our final answer. We set up the ratios for Heather and Kyle. Heather had 9 hats that were professional, 27 total. So we put it in the ratio as they asked. Kyle had 10 professional, 18 total hats. We simplified each of those ratios, and we couldn't tell by looking at them, so then we compared the fractions with a common denominator. And we noticed that Kyle had the greater ratio, 5 to 9. Okay, in your textbook, we're going to go over a couple of homework problems. So let's look at number 24 in your homework problems for this section 8.1. Notice in this one, we had 600 meters to 5 kilometers. We changed them both to the same measurement, which would be 600 meters to 5,000 meters. We simplified it so it would finalize to be 3 meters to 25 meters.
That's for all of them.
In this homework problem, you had 2 pounds to 18 ounces, and we need to change it and reduce the ratios. So we changed it to both. We changed them to a similar, same unit as ounces. So we went to 32 ounces to 18 and simplified it. The final answer would be 16 ounces to 9 ounces. Final one, number 25, 7 minutes to 25 seconds. In our final example, we changed them to a similar unit of seconds. 7 minutes is the same as 420 seconds over 25, and then we simplify it. 84 seconds is to 5 seconds.